Let's take a look at the instructions. Basically, how in the world do we do this? I haven't shown it in any text form, so this video is the best place to learn how to do both cropping an image, which means showing only a part of it, and zooming in on it, making that part of it bigger. So if we go to our code, I have here a sample of the map that you can use for this, the United States basic map. So here we are. It's the United States. It's an image that's actually bigger than what I can show on the screen at once. So I could make it smaller. Let's just remind ourselves real quick some things that we could do. Um, this is the center point of the image. This is the map's original height and width, its location on the screen, and then its scaling size. So if I say, hey, that's too big, I could always cut this one down in half and it will zoom out, you could say, because it's fitting it all in one screen here. So that's one thing that you can do. What you really want to, what you're really going to play with in this one is you're going to play with these two first options. It's the center of the screen and the original height and width of the screen. First of all, if I was to change the center of the screen, let's just say, well, let's shift our focus of the screen like 50 pixels on the X thing and negative 50 pixels on the Y. That should theoretically move our image over. But when I go to run it, I get black. If you get black, that means what you try to do doesn't work and the computer just decides not to display the image. So if you ever get black, you've basically done something that doesn't work for some reason or another. Basically, the image is trying to draw parts that aren't there, and so it can't draw them, so it's not going to work. Better is for you to manipulate this one first. So let's just see what happens if we say, hey, our map is not actually the original size we told it. Our map is actually half the size of what we told it. So when I run it, what happens is it basically is zooming in, if you think about it, into this because it thinks that it's a smaller size map than what it used to be. And so as I change these numbers, I can kind of get closer and closer to it. Now it's zooming in on the exact center of the country, or the exact center of the map, I should say. And so as you go, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. This reminds me of Google Earth. When you zoom in, you can find out there's this like one city in Kansas that's like the exact middle of the country. And I guess that's about where we're going here too. So that's one option, is to change these. So let's just say we change these back over to, oh, I don't know, 3. I'll let you play around with how close you want to get into a state. Probably a bit more than that. Now that we don't fit the whole thing on the screen at once, now we can shift the center of the map to say, no, we don't want to look at Kansas anymore. We want to change that. So let's just say I shift over 100 pixels on the x-axis and 50 pixels on the y-axis. I'm going to go negative of this one and positive in this one. So the question is, do you think that this means it's going to go like towards the west, California, or towards the east and the east coast? So when I play it, okay, so negative made it go west a little bit. We trucked on over to Colorado and New Mexico. So, well, I want to go further than that. What if I want to go 250 over? Okay, now we're, into Arizona, and Kansas is almost off the screen entirely. So as you change this number, it's going to go further and further in one direction. If you go too far, that's where it's going to become black again and not work. So you have to, if you get black, that means you've gone too far. How about this one? Did it go north or south when I hit plus? I think it went slightly to the south, didn't it? So let's check that out by going even more to the south. Oh, too much. It's off the screen. So, how about 150? There we go. Now we can get Texas into it. So, changing these two numbers, which you can do after you've changed these numbers. Otherwise, you'll get the black screen. And then the other thing that you can do is you can decide once you get where you want to go on the map using adjusting these two. Um, for instance, oh, I want to zoom in on Texas, so now I'm going to make this bigger, and then Texas becomes bigger. Um, Once you change that, then you can change the size of the image. I wouldn't change where it's appearing on the screen. Mine, I made it appear just directly in the middle of the screen here. But now it's like, do I want this to be a smaller zoom in on Texas? Or do I want it to be a larger zoom in on Texas? So that looks even more zoomed. All we're doing is changing the actual scaled version of the map right there. So you kind of play with this one first, then you can play with this one, and then you can play with the size when you're done. And you should be able to move around on a map. Um, it's a good example of how you might want to only show a part of a picture.